You ready, Matt?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so we're back. During the caucus, Mr. Tieford signed Article 450, which was instructional program input process. That was book language from the district and book language from the association. So that's been signed by both parties, and we also amended the ground rules. We've done away with number 9 from our ground rules, which spoke to making joint statements to the media. So that's no longer in effect.
We, Ryan, I don't know your preference. We did have opportunity to talk about articles we would propose for our next meeting. We could either do that now or at the end of this meeting. No preference here.
Yeah, I'm ready.
So we'll propose to discuss Articles 404, 405, and 423. And then also, so those have some changes that would need discussion. The other two we'd like to look at, and we believe are housekeeping, are Articles 407 and 710. 710.
So 404 is classroom materials and equipment. 405 is office equipment. So you have to feel like those should be fairly quick articles. 423 is emergency closures. I think there might be a bit of work to be done on those. On that one. 407 is parent-teacher conferences. You said that's essentially a housekeeping item in your mind?
I believe so. We have proposed changes just reflecting the change to the department.
And 710, employer information. Okay. Thank you.
And to be clear, 710, I characterize it as housekeeping. It is the first paragraph struck in our proposal, but the reason I characterize it as housekeeping is I believe it may be legacy language insofar as that information is available through board docs and in other electronic contexts. So I think this is language that doesn't reflect current conditions.
Okay, so do you want to, did you come back with anything on 421?
I think we did have discussion, appreciate the opportunity to do that. We then shifted focus to, identifying and finalizing the articles that we just mentioned. I'm going to hold 421 for further discussion on our side and
Okay.
bring it back.
Okay. So I think on our agenda, I think we had 418. I'm going to hand out 417 and 418 from our initial proposal. The reason for that is that everything that's in 418 now is new language, but it was simply cut and pasted from Article 417. So just so you can have them both to take a look at. We may or may not make much headway on 417 tonight, but I feel like we should be able to get 418 done.
And not to make too big an issue of this before we get into discussion, but we do view the change in the existing portion that you've left in 417 as being something that's going to require discussion. So I don't know if you,
You said
if
in
you're
417.
correct.
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't know, we weren't, I guess that wasn't on the list of articles we were prepared to discuss, so I don't know if you want to do that in lieu of 506.
Maybe I misspoke, but 417 is in no way. The 417 will require some robust discussion, I'm sure.
Okay, and that'll be on a different evening,
Sure.
yes.
Okay, so 417, as it exists right now in our contract, the title is In-Service Planning and Calendar. So, in our initial proposal, we have split them apart, and we would propose that 417 in the future just be related to in-service, and a new section 418 would be dedicated to calendar issues. So, our 418 calendar was just cut and pasted from the old 417. The district opened 418 as well, but we believe with just housekeeping, just maybe two little housekeeping changes, they have struck where it says iSchool staff and replaced that with virtual program staff. And I believe you had you replaced AEA with association somewhere down at the bottom. So I misspoke. You opened 417, but the part of that relates to what we're proposing for 418, you only had those two changes.
That's accurate.
Okay. So since we're, I think we're probably in agreement on the content of 418, but we have handed you our initial proposal, which did not reflect that virtual program staff change of name for iSchool, or reclassification, where we should characterize that as. And so if the next time if we sort of conceptually agree that we're okay with 418, then next time we meet, we'd have a 418 that was ready to TA.
The only thing I would note is that there's also the addition in the AEA proposal of Cyber Center site coordinators as a new, that's not reflected in the book language.
Okay.
So
under there. Yep.
Not necessarily to reflect any position one way or the other as to whether that would be something we'd be agreeable to, but just to note that.
Okay. If that's a coin toss for you, I don't think you should underestimate how cool it would be to have the title Cyber Center Site Coordinators listed in 418.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, that sounds like something that Mike would get a kick out of.
And I don't know, Mike, if you, Mike, I don't know if you want to speak to that. I mean, we could address that now if you're prepared. Right.
I don't see an issue with it. I think that is what we are proposing now anyway. I think it makes some sense to have them in the same bucket of folks. There is sometimes going, I was going to say, I don't see an issue with having them in this group. I think that they fit pretty squarely with a group of folks that could utilize a flexible work calendar to achieve the mission, and I think it's something that would help both sides out. So I don't have any issue with that being added to the contract.
And Brian, just so I'm sure I understand the association's intent, would it be of any concerned that the title high school staff be adjusted as proposed by the district to virtual program staff?
No, we understand that that's the practice now, so.
All right, yeah, I don't know that, and the change in housekeeping from AEA to association was just more in trying to track throughout as we worked articles some convention around reference to either AEA or association, but it's certainly nothing I'm that concerned about. So I think what I'm seeing is that we're in agreement with those changes we've talked about with respect to this proposal.
Great, thank you. We do have a question about the site-based tech collaborators, and I'm not sure who would speak to that, but I'm gathering Mike. Thank you, Mike. The question is, how many site-based tech collaborators exist, and will ASD bring them back?
So so that specific title, if you want to think about a position that is staffed, is typically at secondary. So that's going to be both middle schools and high schools. They are staffed sporadically and differently based on the school needs. So it's something that the principal makes the decision on currently. Now and maybe what you're getting to with our change in process to start moving towards one-to-one at secondary schools, we have worked with both the board and budget to put in place a tech support position at those schools. And so that is new for this year. That's helping support the secondary schools. But those roles very specifically are secondary roles, and some of them are 0.2, some of them are 0.5, some of them are 1.0. Some schools have had more than 1.0, and so it's kind of all over the map.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
They'll come back and fix those because we don't have any
he's leaving.
employees. Yeah. I think he's gonna come back with those.
Any other questions or?
No, can we, well, I guess yes. Can we clarify again what's going on in number 4? I think you said that you were going to leave it as book. Or that,
Yeah, members utilizing Flexen rather than employees.
That's housekeeping.
okay.
Yeah, and then
Yeah, so-
AEA members, we don't have
Doesn't
employees.
matter to me. I just want to know what we're doing.
Yeah,
So
we
just to clarify, Matt, what we just gave you on 418, we would make the following changes to that. I believe we would strike iSchool and add in virtual program staff, correct?
Correct.
Then we acknowledge that cyber center site coordinators is new. It is underscored, but I don't know, we probably should have bold underscored it or done something to highlight it more as new language. And then the last bullet, we're fine with the change that you proposed where to go to the association. And then under section 4, we're also fine with your proposal just changing employees to members both at the beginning and into that sentence.
That's my understanding, and I agree with that if the association is in agreement. So we'll wait maybe next time till we have a clean copy, and sounds like
Sure.
we're there
So
on that one. Okay,
We'll make those adjustments and have something signed next time.
sounds good.
Okay, very good. Should we take a look at 506?
Sure.
So 506 is a relatively new article. The current book language says bargaining sessions will be scheduled for no more than 2 sessions per week, and the bargaining sessions will occur no earlier than 4 p.m. We propose the addition. In our initial proposal, it says unless mutually agreed upon by AEA and ASD. And initial proposals shall be exchanged no later than 6 months prior to the end date of the existing contract. And the 6 months prior to the end date, the idea there is that these contracts typically expire at the end of June, so 6 months prior to would be in December we would exchange initial proposals. If it would make more sense to put a date in there, something effective, initial proposals will be exchanged by December 10th, unless mutually agreed otherwise, something like that, that'd be fine for us as well. We don't, we're not hung up on the exact length of time or anything, but it would probably be helpful to the process to know that initial proposals were going to be exchanged prior to winter break, that type of thing. Just to, there's concern that these negotiations have a tendency to drag on well beyond the expiration of the contract, and that's when we do start negotiating first semester. So we got a late start this year, and that's it is what it is. But in the future, I think it'd probably be wise to kind of firm up the rough area of time where we have typically exchanged initial proposals in the past. So that's just kind of been the practice, I think, for a long time, but wasn't written anywhere. So, and if you wanted to say November 15th or second Monday after Thanksgiving or whatever, just somewhere in the kind of that mid-November to before you leave for winter break seems like it'd be a good move and help everybody kind of plan and get negotiations off to a good start.
Okay, I mean, I think I understand the intent, excuse me, the intent. I think one of the questions I had, you've already answered, and that is that this would put that deadline at basically New Year's Day, a couple days before New Year's Day, but
Yeah.
I hear you saying that's kind of the no later than 6 months. So I understand that. I guess I would like to comment about something you said there toward the end of your statement, and that is that there were, I think, factors that contributed to the time when we began discussing moving forward with negotiations this year that while I certainly hope aren't likely to recur in the current state, in more general terms, could occur for any number of reasons. And so I guess I'll just express some reluctance to, in the early stages of our current negotiation, to bind future bargaining teams on either side with respect to how the parties in those circumstances, unknown because they're in the future, might present themselves. And well, I guess I'll first let you respond to that. I have some other comments also.
Yeah, we already try to bind future bargaining teams to various conditions, and there's no. I would assume that given if there were a repeat, similar set of circumstances or whatever, that we would end up with a similar result to this time. That we wouldn't start negotiating in earnest until late spring. But and that's mutually agreed upon part there. You know, if both parties agree that there's a legitimate reason for pushing the exchange of proposals back, then fine. But this is just kind of viewed as a guideline, a good a suggestion where folks can plan well in advance and kind of expect that this will be the standard. This is you know, we need to have an initial proposal ready to go by this date. We need to, you know, and work backwards from there. You know, how much work goes into creating an initial proposal. You know, we need to get our information requests out as soon as we can. You know, just to provide a bit of a framework for how the negotiations get started.
And
So I view this as having a great deal of flexibility. I'm not trying to rope one team or the other or both into anything ridiculous here. I mean, it's easy to if the date, let's say the date was set as December 1st, and both sides get together and go, hey, you know, we need another week. We're getting close, but we need a week. I can't imagine that there'd be any objection to that. It's just a kind of a target date to get things started.
I mean, it's written as a requirement, and to be excused from the requirement, there has to be mutual agreement. So I understand what you're saying, but I don't know that that squares with the language as written. So maybe there's some different language that can.
Well, it says unless mutually agreed there.
Well, but I guess what I'm getting at is what if AEA-ASD says, okay, well, it's December 10th or whatever date we might agree on, and AEA has a change in leadership, and you know, the building floods and all the work on the initial proposal is, I mean, and ASD were to say, nope, we need your proposal. You agree to the 10th. It's by mutual agreement. We don't agree that there's delay. So
I would say if all those things happened and the other side were not willing to move your date back for you a couple weeks, you're going to have a very, very rough set of negotiations in front of you. But I can't fathom that a reasonable team wouldn't agree that the date needs to be pushed back. I guess
okay.
Worst case is that you say, you know, you show up without a initial proposal, and there can be, you know, start the conversations about ULPs or whatever. But that's not the intent of this. I mean, the intent of this is just to say, hey, so everybody can plan. Let's plan on trying to start negotiations with the exchange of initial proposals on, you know, by this date. That's all. I mean, if both sides decide they want to start in September or whatever, great. It's just a.
It seems responsive to the district's difference in opinion as to, number one, whether initial proposals have to be exchanged under state law, and number two, some difference that we spent some time discussing on April 7th as to whether it was appropriate for the district not to have a proposal on that date. So it seems responsive to this year.
Well, I mean, I think this article was crafted 4 years ago, something like that. It was a one-sentence article, and it started, you know, prior to that, there'd never been any mention in the contract about how often we should bargain, when we should bargain, you know, that type of thing. So this is just an add-on to that. I mean, we're off and running now. I think we're probably going to start clicking through articles and getting some work done. I view this as more as a, you know, this year is kind of an outlier, I think, in terms of a lot of things. You know, timeline-wise, I think lots of timelines got blown up quite a while ago. But I think in whatever a normal period of time would look like going forward, I think it would be good for both sides to be able to anticipate that they were going to start negotiating
I noted that
before winter break.
initial proposals in the last negotiation were exchanged actually late April. Can you tell me why?
Late April,
Of
From AEA?
2018?
that does not ring a bell.
I mean, I
Did we
wasn't
go-
on the team, but the
That was
bargaining
from
notes.
2018, you said?
Correct, when the current agreement was negotiated, the exchange of proposals in the notes I've reviewed occurred on, I forget the exact date, 23rd, 26th, somewhere in that neighborhood.
I don't remember
I have no idea.
ever exchanging proposals. We'll look into that.
It's
but
just, it's by way of just sort of posing the question of, that maybe there were circumstances related to that negotiation that required that be the date that proposals were exchanged. I don't know.
We're both wondering if maybe that was when we transitioned out of interest-based bargaining into,
There were, I guess, two 1-year contracts, and then and some work, I believe, toward a
maybe we may have agreed to roll one or something.
yeah.
I don't remember I'm curious now. I don't know where that came from. I kind of find it hard to believe that that's what happened, and we'll look into it.
Okay, I appreciate that.
But
It-
anyway, there's language around the state apparently, or on other places in the state, that initial proposals should be exchanged in writing by January 31st, the year the CBA expires, and it's just give it some thought. I don't see a downside to this. I think if one party was so unreasonable that they wouldn't cut the other party some slack in the event that they had a legitimate issue, then, like I said, those negotiations are going to be a disaster anyway. So it would just be a little pre-disaster. But this isn't meant to be anything heavy-handed or ominous. It just seems like a nice guideline to include with the previous one in 506. So I don't think we need to oversell it. Think about it. If you hate it,
Yeah.
don't buy it.
Yeah, we'll give it some thought. Did anyone on the ASD team have any questions? I'm seeing heads shaking. So yeah, I think we'll just take this one back for some discussion.
Could you give me you said it was April of 2018?
I believe my reading of the notes was April, and I apologize, I don't have them with me, but there was an exchange of initial proposal noted in the bargaining history notes in April of 2018. And the contract, I believe, was settled. I mean, it obviously related back to June 30, but it settled later.
I just got some clarification. Yeah, apparently, we had just settled one and agreed to bargain immediately. I think that was even part of the negotiations there, that we agreed to turn around and start right away on the next one. So it was almost I guess you'd say a continuation of, we had gone past, I think we went the better part of the year without a contract, so I guess that's what happened on that one. But anyhow, that's,
But that commenced negotiations for some additional period of time, as I understand
Yep,
it. Yeah,
yep,
okay,
yep, yep.
understood. Thanks for that clarification. I don't have any other questions. Do we want to talk about, I mean, I know we have tomorrow set aside. It would be this team's intention to meet tomorrow if your team is, we can have our articles ready for review.
That's our expectation.
Okay.
And feel free to provide any feedback you have on our, what we presented tonight. We can take any of that up as well.
Okay, sounds good. Anything else?
Can you give us, just 1 minute before we break? I want to have a sidebar with a teammate here real quick. Yeah, just 1 minute, please, Matt.
Yeah.
I got team too. I'm little did we know Karen. Late in the day, I don't want to split up. My Fitbit died on me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It seems like you just know that.
Well, I got it for my birthday, I thought.
You're in the hospital? Yeah, they should
But
last
Dee told me
longer.
hers died, and she returned it, and they sent her a new one. So
Wow.
I'm not on my to-do list, really high up on it right now. But I do better.
Thank you for that, Matt. And I'll try to enunciate more clearly in the future. I guess it will. It's the mask. It's got to be the mask. All right. Yes, thank you. I think we're good, and we'll see you back this room tomorrow.
I believe we're in this room again tomorrow, yeah.
It's so much better, thank you.
Thank you for this evening, and we'll
Yeah.
see you tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you for your time.